Welcome back. This is the next tutorial in the Hearts of Iron 4. Doing this one as I'm just using Italy. This is Italy, obviously, as you can tell. And we're going to talk about, in this particular episode, about how to do some of the commands in the military interface, and how the units work, things like that. So primarily you'll notice there's some infantry. We've got 6, we've got 3 mountain units, 1 cavalry, 3 armor units, 1 infantry, 1 mountain unit, 1 infantry here, 1 cavalry. Now, as we'll notice, as you zoom out further and further, they get clustered together. And when you go zooming in closer, they start to get into little groups. And if we keep zooming in, they actually will show which particular province they're in. But otherwise, they sort of just get grouped to make it look. So you kind of have to zoom in to actually see where they all are. The next thing, if we're looking at them, is you'll notice it has the flag. This is the Italian units. And there's our French opponents across the border, and there's a Yugoslavian unit over there. You can also see there's some ships as well, and there's planes that are based at this air base. These 2 little lines here, the green line is the organization, and the brown line is essentially the it's representative of their equipment and manpower. So as long as they have equipment, it'll be up towards the top. If they're running low on equipment, that brown line will start to drop. If they have a shortage of manpower, it'll start to drop, and it'll show the effectiveness based on the value. It's kind of the effectiveness of the unit. So if they're short a bunch of manpower, the effectiveness is going to be reduced, even if they're fully equipped. Inversely, if they are full of manpower but don't have enough equipment, their fighting effectiveness isn't going to be very good either. Or if they're an infantry unit that's got no artillery in it, their effectiveness is going to be dropped quite a bit because they won't have that artillery. So that's essentially what that is. You'll also notice that these ones are green. There's no little coloration with them like there is with this purple here. And that's because they're just currently unassigned to any groups. So if we look up here, there's a notification telling us that, hey, there's a bunch of unassigned divisions. Now, if you want to group divisions together, you can just select them, and it suddenly shows both of them selected. If I want to select more, I can hold down the Shift key and click on them, or I can hold down the Shift key and drag and drop and add a bunch more that way. Grab them all this way, right? So you can do it that way. And then if we want to do something with them, we can go ahead and click this and group them all together as an army. And now they're all part of this big army here with all of their names listed. Shows their experience level. So this would be regular, that would be trained. If it has like a shamrock, that would be green. And there's more level 4 and level 5 for like veteran and elite, which can go up even higher. They'll have like a wreath around them if they're elite, and they'll have like a bar across if they're veteran. There's also these things saying division belongs to an army but has no orders assigned. Yes, well, that does also make sense. Now, we can also assign this army to a general, and we can do that by clicking up here. And then it gives us a bunch of generals that we can choose from. I can just go ahead and pick someone. I'll just grab that guy. We could go in and adjust his stats if he had abilities and had free traits available, but he doesn't. Now, the other thing you can do too is if you just want to deselect all of these units, you can actually go here and just click this. It says all units from this army will come unassigned and all painted orders will be deleted. Are you sure you wish to remove this army? You say okay. Now they're still all selected, but they're not part of an army. And if I just want to go and select, I can click other people, or just select these ones, or just select those ones, or I can select them all, and then I can put them in groups. If I want, I can go ahead and select a couple of them and then right click over here, and they'll leave this army and they'll be put in the new army on their own, those 5 guys. And you'll notice that they're purple, which corresponds to the purple there, and these ones are all still green because that corresponds to the green. And if I want, I can select both generals at once, so you can see the golden highlighted around the edges, and I can click this, and this will assign them to a army group. And I can also assign a field marshal to lead the army group by going up over here. And I can pick someone like Emilio Di Bono. And I can then also assign an army general to this one and an army general to this one. You can just sort of play around and assign them. You can also hide the army generals underneath just by clicking a little arrow if you want. You can break a unit off. If I don't want it to be part of this one, I can just click over here and assign him to a different army group. And now he's separate. I could actually have him go back and join the other one, and that gets rid of that other army group. I can change them around in their order. You'll also notice that when you've got different generals selected, this icon shows up here, this little bar with a bunch of different orders and things on it. You use that to give orders to your troops. So I'm going to leave this part up here for now. I'm just going to hit escape and get rid of that. I'm going to cruise on down to Ethiopia, and I'm going to have an army over here on the north. I'm going to group them together. I'm going to have an army here on the south. I'm going to group them together, and then I'm going to group both of those armies. So they're both highlighted, and give them a field marshal. So I'll give them a field marshal, and I'm going to pick, let's go with Pietro Badoglio. And I'm going to pick the northern army, and I'm going to assign them to Giovanni Messe. And in the south, let's pick Prasca. There we go. So you'll notice that Prasca's got this purple color for his units. Purple, 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 purple. There's a common theme. You'll also notice that some of his units are green and some are trained. These ones are also the colonial divisions, and these are the Di Fanteria divisions, which, if we remember from our earlier video, you can go to the recruit and deploy, and you can actually see there's the colonial division template. So it's 6 infantry, and they're set to use lower quality equipment. And then the Di Fanteria is set up here with 6 and an engineer. So they have extra engineers. That's basically the only different, and they're higher priority for equipment. There's not really that much difference between them otherwise. In the north, we have 1 mountain division. If we wanted to look at the mountain division, 6 mountain units. They have artillery with them, which is actually pretty good, and they have an engineer as well. So they are, packing some heavy firepower with them. So now what we want to do is we can go ahead and we can click, and we can give orders to this general, and we can break off the units as we do the orders for this general. So for instance, if I want this general to do, this field marshal, give his army group orders, I can actually do that, and I can, select, hold down the shift button, and then deselect the purple guys in the south, because you can see that they're purple and these ones are pink up in the north. And now when I've got these ones selected, if I go here and click this button to put a front line, I can do that. And you can put a front line right here, and they will basically just use this as their front line that they're going to take their orders from to move south with. So we can do that. We click it, and look, there's now a nice little line drawn there that they are going to use as their front line to advance forward on. I can also set the offensive line on where they're going to go to. So I can go, okay, and you just right click, and you just say, okay, I want them to go to here. And it gives them a line that they're going to go to. If I wanted to do another one, I could then do another one from here and then go to here. And you can sort of stagger them. So they'll go to here, and then they'll go to there. Now, you don't have to do this. You can actually get rid of ones that you don't want. You can get rid of this one if you don't want it. If you're not happy with it, you can even get rid of this whole front line if you don't like it. Get rid of it altogether. And you can go back and add a new one, again, with these same people. So we'll do that again. If you want, let's say you only want to put them on part of the line, you don't really want them to fight along this part, you can actually hold down right-click on the other side of the border, and you can see how it sort of moves the line along. So we could just set the front line here, and these guys here would actually move to kind of go over here and ignore this territory. probably not such a good plan, but it is possible. Another interesting thing that you can do is if you've got the unit selected, if you right click on this, as you'll notice it tells you that when you hold the mouse over, it says click this button to click on in order to delete, or you can right click it to delete all the orders. So I can just go boom and go OK, and that order that we did was wiped out. Now let's go back and deselect these 4 in the south, and we'll just draw them front line, and I'll give them a secondary order to cruise down to here. There we go. So they now have an order. Now if we scroll in, it shows us 14 divisions are assigned to this particular order, and it sort of shows you what they're going to do. They're going to go there, they're going to go there, they're going to move on south and go. It also gives us sort of a coloration of how successful the AI, the system evaluates this plan as. So it's going, well, this is a pretty good plan. We've got a pretty good force against them. Now we've got these orders. They're set, they're ready, but now we want to do some orders for the guys in the south. So we'll go and select them. So I select one of them and then hold down shift and I can select the other 3. So I've got all 4 of them in the south selected. I can click the give an order on the line button, and now I've got an order in the south, and I need to give them somewhere to go. So I just go in here and they'll go this way. So I'll draw a line over to here, and now their arrow will take them this way. So we've got these units in the north squeezing down this way, got these units in the south squeezing in this way, and we've got orders. When I click this button, this activates the order. So both of these orders, because they're all under these troops, will get fired and will start moving, and essentially these units will move to engage the enemy and go about doing their thing. Now there are other orders as well. There's a fallback line here. You can use the fallback line if you want certain troops to go to a specific location and just stay there. So for instance, I can set these 2, and I'll select these 2 over here, and I'll put them in an army and give them a general. Cavallero, you've got a mission, and we're going to give them an order, and I just want them to go on this border line right here. Just take those spots, and when this guy, he'll start moving to there, and this guy will start moving across to go there as well, and they'll just sit there, and if I get rid of it, then they'll still sit there. This is an order for area defense. If you want them to do an area defense order instead, I can go ahead and I can right click on this and delete that order that we got there, and I can select them and I can do area defense, and I can just pick the states and provinces that I want them to guard. So I'm going to put these 2 and basically on area defense. Once I've selected all the ones I want, I can just click there again to close it, or you can just hit enter. I can just hit enter, it'll do that as well. And essentially they will now guard these locations. And you can set, when you go in here, okay, I only want to guard the victory points, or I only want to guard the naval bases. So we'll turn off the naval bases. We don't need to guard those. We don't need to guard the coastline. We don't need to guard the air bases or the forts or the hubs or the railways. We'll just guard the victory points. So, and then it tells us that we need at least 3 divisions because there's 3 points that have victory points on them. This one, obviously, this one, and this one. So we don't have enough divisions to adequately defend it, but if we had 3, one would go there, one would go there, one would go there. And if we added more places like that, well, it's still the same ones. If we add air bases, well, now they need 3 more because they need 1 for here, and 1 for somewhere else, I'm guessing. Is there a 3rd air base? I don't see a 3rd air base, but it seems to think it needs 6 now. Oh yeah, there. 1, 2, and 3. There's actually planes at that one. Alright, so that's what the guard, and we can right click to get rid of that too. So that's to do a guard mission. This button here is how the orders will be executed for the general. So if I go over to this guy, and he's leading these troops in the south and these troops in the north through these sub-generals underneath him, I can go ahead and I can make him go, let's do really careful plans, which means he'll just attack slowly. He'll make very good plans. You'll get a better planning bonus. You'll have less casualties, but generally speaking, it's going to be a slower advance. Conversely, there's the default setting, which is, a balanced manner. And then there's aggressive. Aggressive, the units will put themselves out in the open and at risk of being, taken out. But you're more likely to do risky plans and attacks and be more successful if you've got superior power or numbers over the other side. You'll want to do this to basically move forward and trounce the enemy. The blitzkriegs, as it were. So in this particular case, I'm just going to do the slow attack, and the reason I'm going to do that is just because when you're going against Ethiopia, you're going to win. Pretty much, there's pretty much no chance of not winning with the forces that are already there, as long as you don't mess up and assign something. But they should just easily trounce the Ethiopians and take their country. But what you can do is you can go and do it slowly so they gain more experience. Your generals will get more experience. So that's just something I recommend doing if you're playing Italy in the beginning, is just give them the slow option, have them advance slowly, just to make it last longer so there's more fighting. Yes, it does use more equipment. Yes, you may lose a few more casualties out of it, but your generals will be better for things that you want to do later on. So, you have to balance the cost, and you're going to win anyways. Doesn't really matter how long it takes. So that's how you do ordering of the generals. You'll notice there's also this icon here for naval invasion orders and an icon here for paratroop orders. For paratroopers, if you have any, if they're sitting in a base and there's transports there of sufficient magnitude to carry them, and the paratroop has the ability to be paratrooped, which you can see if you go in and take a look at it. It'll have a little paratroop icon showing that they can. And you've got the transports there and they're not on an air transport mission. You can go ahead and select the army that the paratrooper is in and select the paratrooper. So let's pretend this guy was a paratrooper. We could select him. We could then go click this button, and we would then click whichever province or the airport that the unit's in to start, and then it would give us a place to choose where to drop it. And we can say, okay, I want to drop it over here. And we'd right click, hit enter, and an arrow would show basically where they're going to do the paradrop. So that's something useful. I'll show you one at another time in another video, but just to give you the general idea. Similarly, you can do naval invasions. If you've got units that are based inside a port, like this guy, these armor units in Venice, we could go ahead and say, okay, let's do a naval invasion order. We choose where they're going to invade from, so they're going to start in Venice, and then it gives you a bunch of places where they can land. So you can see, hey, any place that's within range that they could sail to, that they could land at. They could even sail up into here. It will let you choose up here. Now the problem is Turkey won't actually let them sail through the Dardanelles, but it gives the ability to do that. And you could even sail out and we're going to invade over here, or we're going to invade over here. Now obviously you have to pick some place that you can invade at some point. Now you would probably not choose to invade Lisbon like this without having a justification for war with them, but you can just go ahead and say, okay, we're going to invade, and then it confirms. It goes, okay, so you're going to send these 3 divisions. They're going to sail down this way, they're going to sail over here, and then they're going to land on this beach and they're going to attack. And if you're good with that, you hit enter, and it's now locked in. And what will happen is if I go and I pick this general who they belong to, he's now got this order, and it says I need 9 convoys to do that mission. So 9 of our 174 will be reserved. Because there's 3 divisions involved, it's 7 days per division, so it's going to take 21 days for their preparations to plan for the 3 of them to launch together. And after the 9 convoys are reserved, and after the 21 days have gone by, we can actually give this order, assuming we have naval superiority in every sea zone that this unit travels through. So they travel, if we want to look at the sea zones, we can do that by hitting F2. And it shows us there's the Adriatic Sea Zone, see there, and then there's the Central Mediterranean Sea Zone here. So essentially they'd have to sail through this one, and we'd have to have naval superiority in both. And to check that, we can actually just click the sea zone, and it'll tell us, where is it here? There are no enemy or friendly ships in the region. So it basically is clear, and this one is saying there's no enemy ships or friendly ships in the region. So it's going to probably tell us that we don't have superiority to do it currently. Yeah. We have only 0% naval supremacy, but require 50% in the Adriatic. We have 0 in the Mediterranean, but require 50%. So if we order our subs out, or our fleets out, and hold those sea zones, it would then allow us to do it. So, but that's just basically an overview of how you would do a naval invasion. You can even go ahead and set these units so that once they take this one, they can hop, skip to the next island. I can pick these, let's say one of these 3. I'll just pick one of them, and I'll give him another naval order, and I'll say we're going to naval invade from here over to Crete, and I lock it in. So we can actually plan for these guys to do this invasion, and then following up on that one armor unit would then go and invade over to this one. When I give the next order, it'll do that. So it's kind of a neat way where you can chain your attacks to be able to hop islands quickly, and they'll be prepared ahead of time. So the preparation for this first mission and the second mission will also be done simultaneously, as it shows you here. It also tells us it's not a good plan, really. But yeah. And I'll just delete them all by right-clicking, boom, and they're all gone. Those orders are gone. So that's the gist of using this. Now there's one other button here. This button is for exercising, for training your units. So remember how we looked at some of our units and we noticed that some of them are already at regular, which is plus 25. There's a bunch here who are at trained, and then there's some of these guys are at green. You can actually say, hey, let's go ahead and have them do training. So we can do training on it, and it gives the order for the subunits to do training. Now I can give it from the field marshal level, and both his subgroups will do it, or I could pick just a particular one and go, okay, we're going to do that, and it will only affect his group. Now the other thing you can do is if you do just click it, they'll keep training until you tell them not to train. When the units are training, their organization value drops, so they're not combat ready, because they're doing battle games. They're not expecting live combat. So you don't want to do this when you're expecting a battle to happen, like we're about to have one starting. We're actually currently in a war with Ethiopia, so you're not going to want to give these ones. But these guys over here, sure, send them the order. And all of these guys will start training. Now the downside is that when you're doing training, it's going to use whatever supplies they have. So they're going to, some of their rifles are going to break. Some of their support equipment is going to break and need to be replaced because they're, doing military exercises, right? So it slowly will utilize some of your equipment, and that needs to be replaced. So it can have an effect, but it just means that if you're doing this, you're not going to get as much reinforcement to reinforce other units or fill up or build new units. If you've got a bunch that need equipment, it's going to take longer. But on the flip side, it does make these units more effective in combat when they finally get out there, because they'll be level 3 instead of level 2. Now, if you don't want all of the units, if you want to say, okay, well, these guys are already maxed out, they're not going to do me any good because they can't train above level 3. All this does is it will give you army XP, which is a way to get that for currency so that you can use it for later, and advisors being another way to do that. But essentially what is going to happen here is it's going to be wasteful unless you need those XP. So if you want, there's a different way of giving the order. You can hold down the shift key when you do it, and it'll give this little red, basically don't go beyond where the training won't work. So for these units who are already at full, they won't train. But these other ones who are below full, they will start training. So if I actually hit the space bar and start the game going, you'll notice that these particular 4 suddenly lost green. They suddenly went down because they're doing exercises. And this little icon here, this yellow line, will start to slowly move up. And when it gets to the top, it'll change into this symbol. Like they will have, instead of the chevrons, they'll have the star. I can also at the same time give the order for these guys to do their attack, and look, now they're starting. Now I haven't given any air support, so I'm going to hit the spacebar to stop. But that's basically kind of giving you an idea of how you can utilize this button to do different things. There is an option here when you go into the generals. You can go ahead and click this force attack if you've got enough command points for the units under their command. It gives them, you know, plus 20% to their offense, plus 25% to their breakthrough. Their organization damage is reduced by 100%, so they take no damage when they're attacking. They do take 60% strength damage, and war support reduction on damage is 20%, so you do lose war support when you're doing it, and they can't retreat when they're attacking. So they just keep on going. So it is got some risky things, but if you really want to take something, you can click that. Similarly, there's Last Stand, which gives defense and entrenchment bonuses. There's also this, which gives you a planning speed bonus for 7 days. So it allows them to do their planning of their attack much quicker. You can unassign divisions from a particular group. Control H does that as well. There's edit mode, which allows you to change where people are going, and of course to get rid of orders, you can do that as well. So that's enough for this episode, and I'll come back to it to show you the next episode on how we do assigning of air.